Hi, I'm Tom Edwards, coming to you from the show floor at CES 2019. Today, I'm going to talk about 10 of the macro trends that I've seen during the course of the show. Everything from AI everywhere, how AR is moving to framing the future, what's happening with the voice ecosystem wars, and more. So I hope you enjoy this video.
Each year I make the trip to the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and as you can see on the screen, I'm looking for innovation, inspiration, and insight. And what's really funny this year, even before the show got started, it started with a bit of a bang. So Apple traditionally doesn't really have much of a presence at CES, but they felt with the acceleration of Google and Alexa in terms of competitiveness, they wanted to start it off right. So they actually put up what happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone, which is really a nod to their focus around differential privacy. So that was an interesting thing out of the gate. But as we get into, there were kind of 10 macro trends that really stood out to me. And the number one trend was AI was everywhere. It was the primary theme. Everything had AI in it. Everything you could think of, from smart toilets to AI-powered hearing aids to the ability to upscale 8K TVs and creation of content. AI was everywhere. And as you start thinking about this, you start thinking about the role that it's going to play as kind of an underlying technology that can help with everything from acceleration of data visualization, or it's even something as simple as picking the right picture. You start then getting into one of the things that actually made me laugh a little bit here was that AI is even in your moving boxes. So here with embedded ML, they've got machine learning actually within the box that you can actually take and track. It was almost comical how much, if your booth didn't have AI associated with it, there was obviously something off. But in reality, though, when you really start looking at the practical applications of AI, one subset of AI is computer vision. And when you start thinking about customer or retail experiences and the ability to take high dimensional elements from your environment and then begin applying data overlays to that, that's really where it starts getting really interesting for me when I think about how experiences, specifically customer and consumer experiences, are going to evolve. So one of the second major themes was really around the idea of convenience. So most of the tools and the technology that you see on the show floor is actually now geared towards how can we make consumers' lives easier? How can technology continue to fade into the background and continue to connect us with the ones that we love or people who can assist us and help us, regardless of the task. So that was a major theme here as well. So everything from, as you can see on the screen there, with connected appliances, all the way through to making it even easier to refresh and refuel, as Coca-Cola was doing here with tap to pay. And you can again see this, how can I make the management of my food easier? How can I make this entire process just simpler? One of the things I really like to see in person was this robot from Robbie.io, which is actually now owned by PepsiCo. And it's this whole idea that we're seeing this shift from the Internet of Things to autonomous things, which basically means it's all about how these systems can now understand our preferences and actually deliver convenience on our behalf. You're also seeing it now in there were a lot of concepts around IoT shuttles and transportation, but again, it's this idea of autonomous delivery of the items that matter the most to us at our biggest point in time and need. So that was again a key point to consider during the show. So here you see kind of the blending of robotics and the ability to help make an individual or a patient's life easier. This was Pillow. This obviously can help with adherence to medication, but again, it follows this theme of convenience. This little robot can then help dispense your medicine at the right time, so you don't have to think about that. The third major macro trend that I saw at CES 2019 was Google's Voice Rally. And what I mean by that is Google made a lot of headway in terms of announcements and really focusing on expanding their ecosystem for Google Assistant. You saw announcements tied to Samsung expanding beyond their own kind of Bixby virtual assistant for 2019. You saw Dish bringing Google Assistant to its Hopper lineup. Whirlpool made a new KitchenAid smart display that had Google Assistant on board. That was water resistant. Lenovo launched an alarm clock smart speaker. And again, it was really focusing on the ecosystem build out and trying to make up ground. To date, Amazon has about a 70% footprint tied to the smart speaker market. And when I sat down with the Amazon team at CES, they reiterated that, now they're over 100 million devices, there are 70,000 plus skills. And probably most importantly, Amazon is very patient. They have a very clear strategy in terms of what they want to see unfold over the next 3 to 5 years. So this was really interesting to see Google's play here to really plus up the partner ecosystem and the focus. One of the more interesting integrations I saw on the floor was actually even for an indoor garden that was powered by Google Assistant. So again, voice was definitely a premier area of focus there during the course of the show. The fourth major macro trend was really tied to augmented reality and really tied to the portability of the service and what I'm calling the framing of AR. So when I looked at a lot of the technology that was on the floor, the one that probably stuck out to me the most was Vuzix. And this is the third year that I've seen the technology, but what really shifted this year was like the different use cases and the different ways in which the product was actually demoed. So as I started going through the experience here, you got to try on and demo the smart glasses, and you would see how they would interact with television. You were able to then look in a very Google Lens style approach to see, restaurant reviews and recommendations pop up. And the most interesting use case was actually tied to the ability to look at items on shelf, have all the product information pop up, as well as kind of a heads-up display piece. But it was really interesting because Vuzix is also integrated with Amazon's Alexa voice service. So the ability to add voice commands in addition to touch controls was in a form factor that's not as invasive as Google Glass was previously. It was an impressive experience. The thing that's really key to understand here, though, is that for a lot of the AR technology that I saw on the floor, previously the analogy I use is like building a house, to where most of the technology is really kind of foundational. And what I mean by that is now we're moving towards kind of the framing of the house. So a lot of what I saw was also tied to three-dimensional volumetric content, to where scanning of real-world items that you're then able to apply in an augmented reality type of format. And this was really key, because this idea of having not only the ability to take and apply this volumetric approach, but also then having real-time simulation and the ability to have it interact with real objects in a virtual plus physical environment, that's a really critical step as we move towards this full kind of digitization of physical spaces. The fifth macro trend was definitely tied to connectivity. We've been hearing this for years. I've been hearing about 5G now for a couple years, dating back to Mobile World Congress. 5G is definitely promising, the ability to connect millions of sensors to really bring IoT to life. And so here at the show, Qualcomm was definitely playing up the reality associated with use cases tied to 5G and what that could potentially mean. That also then applied to edge computing. So edge computing, again, is basically taking and applying a lot of the processing at the local level so that it can reduce latency. So whenever you start really applying this connection of sensors all together, you want to have this kind of local processing. Here's an example to where they were actually showing computer vision plus data visualization, kind of tying it all together. So you can kind of get a little bit of an example here of how you can apply artificial intelligence plus edge computing. One of the other things that's really interesting, and I'm a big believer in here as well, is in order to really truly take in, we talked about the framing of AR, to then finish out the house and really build these kind of comprehensive, immersive experiences that transcend both physical and digital, it starts with the connectivity piece. So again, Qualcomm was really focusing in on how can they drive this next generation of connectivity for retail through 5G, through edge computing, and ultimately through IoT. The sixth macro trend was around proxy and predictive. So one of the key things to consider for the adoption of AI moving forward, and to where virtual assistants will essentially become a proxy for us as individuals. We see so much dependency now on Siri, on Alexa, on Google Assistant, and as we continue to move forward, we're going to have more and more of a dependency on each of these things to carry out certain actions on our behalf. For some, that might be purchasing. You're going to see even more from Alexa tied into the purchasing here coming up with some of the experiences. And as you begin to kind of move down this path of not only having proxies, but also different systems talking to one another, we start having to think beyond just this idea of consumer decision journeys and really what does that mean whenever we're actually marketing to systems and algorithms. This is what we call the proxy web, so I speak about this quite regularly. But one of the things that was really interesting to me was seeing this Wean.ai. And what Wean is this is actually taking this idea of the Internet of Things, moving towards the autonomy of things. And what Wean does is it tailors experiences. It's kind of this proxy control of all these various IoT devices. And what it can do is it can anticipate your arrival at home, prepare it for a tailored welcome. There's proprietary geolocation, situational learning, decision-making autonomy. This is incredibly critical for us to move forward down this path of how virtual assistants can go from this kind of search and retrieval to predicting our specific needs. So I talk a lot more about this in a lot of my eCaret3 Evolution of Experience videos. You can find those on the YouTube channel as well. But again, proxying the actual technology in play was very impressive. The seventh macro trend is tied to what I call digital twins. So this is digital twin is traditionally whenever there is a digital, basically simulation of a physical system or a process. Here at CES, one of my core theories, and I just published a video on this recently, it's called digital twin. My digital twin theory basically takes into consideration that virtual assistants will understand our preferences. Those preferences will then feed into digital simulations to where we can begin to personalize a lot of these various kind of AR-based experiences. One of the keys to driving this simulation moving forward is having the ability to map physical spaces. So one of the things I saw at CES that was really interesting was from Naver, and this is an indoor autonomous mapping robot. It basically takes and it can basically apply three-dimensional spatial data and basically outline and map and navigate internal areas. This can then set the foundation for building more personalized experiences and feeds into this idea of digital twin. The eighth macro trend was really tied to 8K and this shift towards ambient and what it means. So when it comes to 8K, the larger the displays, and there were some large displays. I mean, there were some that were essentially up to 90 plus inches. Samsung actually unveiled this micro LED technology, which actually made these different screens modular to where you could stack these 75-inch screens and make a 219-inch screen. It was amazing. But why this is relevant? You're beginning to see the alignment of not only 8K technology, but the alignment with voice control and the ability to kind of move towards this multimodal type of mindset to where you can control the experiences with your voice, potentially with touch, potentially even with vision moving forward. So as you're thinking about this, plus the application of AI to upscale the lower quality images, you can begin to see how 8K technology, or basically turning walls into screens that you can control, allows us to continue to move down this path towards what we call ambient computing, to where your environment adapts to you versus you adapting to it. Also, in terms of talking about some of the other displays that were available on the show floor, one of the things that really caught my eye too was actually seeing flexible displays, which have been talked about at CES for years, actually now coming into consumer products. So this was a great example. There are also examples on the floor of, this being applied to hats and to shirts as well. The 9th trend was really tied to this connection of mental and physical interfaces. So this is all, when I talk about multimodal and I talk about voice, vision, and touch, touch and gesture base and even brain control was all on this full display at CES 2019. So again, having the ability to use your hands and gesture-based interfaces as a way of controlling technology in the environment, again, allows us to potentially move from the mobile device and again, having our environment adapt to us. As you then, continue to progress down this path and using different gestures again as an input now into, say, augmented or virtual reality type experiences as well, the sensitivity associated with that is becoming even more refined as well. This was really interesting. For any of you who have seen the Netflix show Bird Box, this was actually a haptic suit that allows you to walk through the environment without eyesight. So again, this haptic feedback, or there's also technology similar to Ready Player One as well, to where you could actually feel potential interactions of technology. Here you're looking at basically using eye tracking as a way in which to help control the actual experience that you're seeing in-game. I also saw this applied within some of the new virtual reality headsets that came out. The new HTC Vive headset basically showcased eye tracking where you don't have to move your head as much either in terms of gaming. And one of the other ones that was a lot of fun was I played with the BrainCo, brain control interface last year at CES. I love kind of the progression of the use case here to where it's a combination of not only mental focus, controlling the speed and acceleration of my little Mario Kart car here, but then also combining it with a physical steering wheel. So you've got a true both mental and physical experience. The 10th and final trend was what I'm calling robot or friend. This is really all about the continued humanization of robots. So as you think about physical hardware, physical robots versus virtual assistants, they actually begin to kind of, over the past few years, you're beginning to see this kind of separation between the two. To where the robots are becoming much more about, potential companions or providing convenience or about wellness and kind of interaction with something physical versus a virtual assistant. So as you get into this too, you begin to see this humanization of robotics here. You see kind of cuter form factors. You can dress them up. You can kind of customize them, personalize them. There are also a number of robots for even personal bots for pets to entertain your animals. So not only for people, but you're also seeing this trend applying to pets as well. And again, even dating back to some of the research and some of my past clients, we're looking from a healthcare perspective at adherence. And you had the opportunity to input into basically a mobile app versus a desktop experience versus a robot. We saw exponentially higher rates of adherence to pre-prescribed plans through the robots. People would dress them up, people would name them. So again, this physical interaction, again, is something to definitely keep an eye on, especially for organizations that deal with patient care. All right, it was another great consumer electronics show. Definitely enjoyed my time again. It's always a fun challenge to be able to take and distill everything that's happening across all of the information and all of the content that's out there into 10 trends. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen and view these specific trends. And until CES 2020, hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day. I'm Tom Edwards. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via Twitter at Blackfin360, or you can contact me at blackfin360.com/contact. Thank you.